Reorganization word is also added. So reorganization is also a very wide. It includes the merger, acquisition, takeover, holding company concept, and several other aspects. So I have decided to frame my talk and start my topic talk with the conceptual framework, and I will try to cover the conceptual aspect with some relevant fact and try to create a thinking process of it. So it is required at this stage that thinking process should be started, because we have several regulatory bodies and rules, regulation, but again and again we are facing the several types of and always a new type of scams, new types of misrepresentation of financial statements, and they are also interlinked with each other. So it is a very complex problem. So in this short period of time, my task is only to initiate the thinking in this platform. So we can start the thinking, and after that, we should try to focus on the root cause. And in the conclusion, at the conclusion stage, I will try to focus on that area which should be addressed very importantly. So now I am sharing my PPT, and after that I will discuss on that. Just a minute. So I have explained the words given in this topic: financial statement, misrepresentation, bankruptcy, insolvency, and reorganization. So my entire talk will focus on these issues. So first, I would like to talk the conceptual framework of the entire issue. So when we think over any concept, so it is each and every concept emerged in the economy is basically to solve a particular problem. But how we get the positive outcome of a good concept? The positive outcome, it's not only related with the implementation of the concept. Basically, it depends on a suitable and strong system with a supportive culture. I am concentrating on the culture also, because we have several types of rules, regulations, and systems. But culture is required for success, for a positive outcome of any concept. So it is required. Unfortunately, we all concentrate on the systems and ignores the need to develop a culture required for the concept. So why the implementation of a good concept fails? The economic history of our world witnessed the failure of several good concepts and systems. It was only due to failure in developing culture required for the concept. For example, the concept of socialism, it was good. The concept was to develop a exploit-less economy. The concept is good. But after 70 years of implementation, the implementation collapsed with the collapse of USSR. So the concept was not there. The USSR has failed to develop the required culture for that good concept. And it is still very relevant. We have not developed any concept which is related with the exploit-less economy. So it is the first. After that, after the collapse of USSR, we all know that is another concept was emerged, that is TINA. There is no alternative. But we witnessed the subprime crisis in the world. So it was also the TINA concept was also good, because in capitalism the concept is good and it favors the free economy. But what happens after the collapse of USSR? We witnessed the subprime crisis and the world economy. And after that, what was the remedy? Remedy was to support the sick and stressed companies by the government. So in that case, the idea was failed. So then a concept new way, so social privatization of profits and socialization of losses. It was established with the failure of that capitalistic system in the world through after the subprime crisis. But any other concept have not developed at the stage of developing a exploit-less economy. The mixed economy concept adopted in India, it was also failed, and we witnessed the 1991 new economic reforms. So this is the background. So concept is not sufficient, and quality of concept is not sufficient. Implementation mechanism is also not sufficient. We have the behavioral aspect. The culture related to the behavior is important. Why I have given this background with this topic? Because we have to think whether the concept of corporate sector has also failed. So it is only a idea. It is related with the financial statement misappropriations and frauds witnessed in last 50 years at national level and international level. So the company form of business and other concept also in economic field are not exception, though they help a lot to in expansion of business activities, mobilizing, saving and investment and overall development of the country. But growing number of fraudulent activities and fraud uncovered on regular basis is a proof that the basic characteristics like limited liability is misused in all the cases. So idea is good. Idea was good. Idea favors the idea was good, and it has supported at every level. And the development, economic development of India and the world, it was due to this corporate sector. But behavior and the culture related to this limited liability concept has not been followed, and that's why we are in the crisis. So the corporate governance, the word corporate governance become important due to this failure. In my opinion, corporate governance is basically an inherent characteristics in the company form of businesses. It is inherent, but growing fraud cases, this aspect has made this word the issue of enforcement. Is it a issue of enforcement? Corporate governance, it is inherent in several cases of psychology. The doctors advise us, please love your children. So what is this? It is inherent. But now doctors are advising to spare their time with your child. Why it is required? So the corporate governance is also a inherent characteristics with the concept, but now it has become a enforceable issue. So what should be there is another aspect in this context. The Mahatma Gandhi pointed out seven blunders. Seven blunders. What are they? Business without morality. These blunders are also related with the topic. That's why I have incorporated these seven blunders with this topic. What are they? Business without morality. So it is all related with the financial statement, misappropriation, frauds. So business without morality, science without humility, knowledge without character, pleasure without consciousness, wealth without work, politics without principle, and worship without sacrifices. These are the seven blunders, and these all related with the corporate behavior also. So we have to recall them and should make such a system that or such a mechanism so that the required culture can be established. This is my conceptual view. So what is the lessons from several cases of financial statement misappropriation, frauds, and requirement of new IBC code? And after the and the results of this IBC code, what are the lessons? The lesson is we are turning towards greed-based economy. It was also established in 2008 subprime crisis. The many experts, economists said that it is the greed-based economies, and all misappropriation of financial statements and committing fraud are all related with the economics of greed. Gandhiji also said that we have sufficient resources for need of a person, but a need of all the persons of the world, but we have not sufficient resources for a greed of a single man. So this is the main part. You can say that this is the technical issue and it is not related, but in my opinion, I will when we conclude that this talk, I will prove that all the rules, regulation, and reforms they have worked, but they also generated a new type of problem. So it is the lesson that we should change and we should develop the culture. What is the outcome? Because all the corporate sector and business sector is the driver of our development. They are drivers, but today they are defamed as a tax evader, black money generator, and indulging in promoting corrupt practices in administration, politicians, and now in banks and financial institutions also. Earlier, bank was free from such type of frauds, but recent frauds they proves that it is another. It is called a twin balance sheet fraud. You have heard the issue twin balance sheet. So, what is the solution? What is the solution? Regulation, over regulation. We have witnessed such type of after each and every fraud, we change the rules and regulations. Recently, we introduced the independent director provisions, and even then, the independent directors also ignores, or they were the part of the nexus. Recently, government has changed the independent director provision also. Now, it is appointed after 75% of approval of shareholders. So it was 50% only. So we are changing rules, regulation, provision regularly. So regulation over regulation is a solution of it, or multiplicity of laws, long judicial process with minor penalty. It is all very, very important. Very, very important. Why we support, or why we indulge in a fraudulent activities? Because the penalty is very minor, and process of judicial process is very, very long. The recent reforms initiated are reducing that. So this is the it may be the fueling of public money in banks after frauds. Is it a solution, or a reform like IBC? So the last word of topic is IBC, insolvency and bankruptcy. So I will examine whether the IBC is a solution, or it is supporting that the problem we will examine in my talk. This is my conceptual framework of my talk. So next, financial statement mispresentation. Some important facts. So why mispresentation? The first important aspect is why mispresentation. So there are several reasons. The first and important reason is easy and fearless tax evasion system. Businessmen are fearless to evade the tax. That's why the simple way and very common way is to mispresentation in financial statements, hiding of transactions, and violation of all other rules and regulation and financial standards. So they use to prepare the financial statement, but they have several opportunities, and the opportunities of misrepresentation and escape from the tax authority. This is the basic incentive. We can say that it is a very big incentive, and it is not related only with the fraud cases. It is a very regular practice. And Vittal of earlier vigilance chief, they said in before 25 years that 50% of our business transactions are out of net. A good book.
Whether you change the slide?
I have changed. This misinterpretation. It is a part of misinterpretation.
Yeah, it is
mispresentation. Why mispresentation? No.
The title slide is visible now.
Title slide, financial statement mispresentation. Huh?
Yeah.
So it is a first part. I have changed the slide.
No, it is not changed, sir.
Okay. In my computer, it has changed. Why mispresentation? It is not changed in your computer.
No, sir. No, it's not changed.
Just a minute.
Okay, sir.
Just So there are only 3 points in this slide. Financial statement mispresentation, some important facts. So the first fact is why mispresentation. We have to first think over why people are motivated, why businessmen are motivated to mispresentation of financial facts. So whether the maximum tax, it is my opinion, the maximum tax is 30%. Maximum income tax is 30%. If it is a direct tax, if it is an indirect tax, there is no issue. He can collect the tax portion and it can be transferred. So what is the problem? 30%. Tax should be considered as a contribution, but it should be taken as a burden. So they motivated for that. So tax evasion, it is a very easy and fearless tax evasion system. The first motivation is that. So second is easy holding and operating black money. When they just a minute. Is it showing?
No, sir. You haven't changed the slide. Actually, your computer shows the first one,
Yes.
and you are explaining the third one, I suppose.
Second.
Yeah.
Don't show me. First will show. Yes.
It's right, sir.
Okay.
Oh, it has come. Yeah. So if you can make it in a big screen, it would be fine, sir.
In big screen, movement is
Means slideshow. You can present it in slideshow. It would be fine.
Full screen will not visible in slide screen.
Okay, sir.
So is it okay?
Thank you. Thank you.
It's okay, sir. It's okay.
Okay. So the first and second part is the easy holding and operating black money. This is the second incentive of mispresentation. Third is less effective role of audit firms. Effective role, there are the provision of internal audit, external audit, and other audit also. But there are several provisions of SEBI and other regulatory bodies. But the effectiveness of these audits are not proper. Even then, in several talks, we heard that chartered accountants are expert manipulators. They suggest the businessmen, they suggest the companies how to misinterpret and how to hide the transactions. So basically, they are work at the expert manipulator. So this is the problem, and this is the issue. Why the mispresentation is made easy. Next, lack of effective internal control. Though we have the provisions of internal control, now government has changed the provision. It will include in the next slides, next portion, that what reforms have been made by the government to improve the situation, and absence of lack of MIS system, management information system. But we saw in several cases that the top management was involved in all such type of financial statement mispresentations and frauds. They're involved in all. So this system, which is shown in our academic books, it is not viable, it is not feasible, or it is not implemented in the corporate sector. The second is the methods of mispresentation. So it is very known to all that asset misappropriation, fraudulent accounting and financial reporting. Even after we have national Indian accounting standard, IFRS, they follow IFRS. they give the certificate of from audit firm, reputed audit firms, and but even then, the false and improper recognition of revenues, false and improper recognition of purchases, false and improper recognition of expenses and provisions. When we have all these standards in our accounting standards, all have the explanation, but even then, the misrepresentation occurs. Diversion of fund to related parties is a very new phenomena of frauds and very common phenomena, and misuse the concept of holding companies also. In ILFS case, we saw that 346 subsidiaries. It was huge number of subsidiaries, and these subsidiaries were used for circular transaction and transfer of funds. So again, my talk is concentrated on the conceptual part. The concept of holding company was not good. Concept of merger is not good, not bad. Concept of acquisition is not bad, but how it is used, it is important. So the methods of circular transaction and diversion of fund, they are also very important for financial statement misrepresentation. So if we think about the magnitude of the problem, so you all know about the magnitude of the problem, but if we share some facts, then it will explain nicely. So the industry survey 2017 says that 89% of companies based in India were victims of at least one fraud, and out of which 33 suffered revenue losses. This is the latest survey. Another data shows that regulatory non-compliance in India is 13.4%. Another data, the regulatory non-compliance in industries. Bribery and corruption is 19.2%. Funds and asset theft 26.6%. Financial statement frauds 7%. These data collected through the scams and frauds which uncovered, but there are several frauds and cases which have not exposed. So we cannot say that this 7% number is correct, but we can estimate only. IPR fraud 3.9% and money laundering fraud 2.7%. These are all interrelated also. The company which is indulging in financial statement misinterpretation, the benefit of that misinterpretation funds diverted to other companies and again diverted to the diverted and use the money laundering system. So this is all integrated and connected issues. So we can estimate only the basis of corporate fraud recovered of the exposed only. So each and every businessman basically manipulating the accounting books, whether he is a small businessman or a big businessman, and it is for tax evasion purposes. So they all are violating rules and regulations. And at any time, they first decide the tax amount, and after that prepare their accounts on the basis of their willingness to pay the taxes. So these are not included in our fraudulent activity cases, which we have uncovered. So the magnitude is very high. In my opinion, the magnitude is very high. It is as high as I can express here, and as high as you can imagine. So it is very, very big problem. So just so here I have mentioned some major cases of corporate fraud, and I have selected some of them which are basically related. We all know about this, so I will not go in the details of these scams. But we can say that these are the scams related with the financial statement misappropriation. And these frauds, most of the frauds have been committed by the top authority. And the person who was in a good position. So that's why I said that a required culture has not been developed. We have several rules, regulation, provisions, and reforming regularly to these provisions. But how it can be implemented voluntarily? How can we implement? So the first case that is very common, very known case, the Satyam computer. Satyam computer was the case of large-scale dummy billing of services rendered to foreign clients. Fake bank evidences produced before the audit to satisfy bank balances. Is it not surprising that Satyam received the award for excellence in corporate governance? So the question is, why Ramalinga Raju commits such fraud while it had sound business model with a large international clients? This is the issue, because why he decided to commit a fraud when he has sufficient favorable conditions. So after that, this is the main issue. The second is Jet Airways. I will only explaining in brief that because we all know about these cases, but I am highlighting only the financial statement misappropriation method used in these cases, and the effect of these cases. In Jet Airways, overstating the commission and other expenses and underreporting the profits. Diversion of fund, it is a very common practice in fraudulent activities. Fake invoices and recording of other similar transactions. So point is, whether the audit and prevailing rules and regulations have not been detected or they ignore it. Is there any the important aspect is they can develop, the system is developing the nexus of important persons, and now it is colluded with the banks also. So it is the big problem. So what is the solution? It will be taken in the last. So I am focusing on the behavioral aspect, behavioral aspect, and it is related with the culture. So Bhushan Steel was also accounted. There are other several issues with the cases. I have not taken these issues. I have taken only the financial statement misappropriation issues of these cases. So in Bhushan Steel, accounting of bills for capital and other purchases which were never incurred and funds so generated were misappropriated by the promoters for their benefits. So they generated fund from the misappropriation and they use that fund in their personal benefits. ILFS case is very, very for 91,000 crores scam. And I have already said that over invoicing of expenses, overstatement of profits by non-provisioning the loan, and unprecedented number of subsidiaries and group companies. That was 346 group companies, the subsidiary companies, which were routed above the transactions. Non-disclosure of related parties. So how it is possible when we have the disclosure standard, international standard, IFRS standard? So how it was possible to non-disclosure of related parties of 346 subsidiaries book? It is not possible with a top level nexus of important persons and also with the banks. And they have diverted this borrowed fund to the and circular transaction was also made. This was and it has hampered the overall development of the country, because the companies have several infrastructural projects, and especially the projects sponsored by the government. So it was a very big case. So 346 subsidiary, is it not a misuse of a good concept of holding company concept? So it should be reviewed. Or so next, the DLFH HF case. It is the first round of first fraud in the housing sector company. The method was different. They created 6 lakh dummy accounts in one branch and used these accounts for granting loans and chipponed funds through these accounts to promoters' company. So we can see that the method was different. 6 lakh dummy accounts at one branch and sanctioned loan to them. So this is another kind of fraud. PMC, and all these are related to the misappropriation of financial statement. PMC Bank is also recorded fraudulent transaction for several years to facilitate HDIL through to fictitious accounting and violated the single party lending rule. There is a provision, you cannot lend a huge amount to the single party, but easily violated and ignored by the audit firms and the promoters and the other top management. So frauds, they are involved in it. So this is the PMC. Yes Bank is another kind of fraud. They overstatement of profits due to the front loading of commission income and gross violation and under provisioning of NPA. The method of under provisioning of NPAs. So this is also related with because there are certain provision for provisioning of NPA, but they violated it and the fraud committed. Next, the crux and king. It is also the inflated financial statement. They generated inflated financial statement from 2014 to 2019. This was the first tour and travel company in India. They showed fictitious sales of rupees 9,000 crore. Fictitious sales of rupees 9,000 crore. But a huge amount. 21,000 fund diverted to related parties. 1,100 crore loan given to a bankrupt company, Alok Industry, and 750 crore credit card loan we have not disclosed. It is again the practice of non-disclosure of important fact. 750 crore credit card loans. What a huge amount, and how it was possible to not to disclose in their books. So these are these examples are the separate kind of fraudulent activities and methods used by the companies. Sterling Biotech, they also falsificate the accounts, dividend borrowed fund, diverted borrowed fund, and inflated the transactions with nexus with the bank officials for sanctioning the loan. This the nexus with the bank officials also help them to submit, to prepare the misrepresentation financial statement and present them for seeking the loan and approval of loan. This is the important aspect. Nirav Modi, we all know about the Nirav Modi and Mehul Choksey case. This is also banking fraud. It was big banking fraud before ABG shipyard scheme, but it was the method was entirely different. They used the SWIFT method, and they use the top official of bank, and they misuse the facility of exporters, and succeeded to hide that transaction, that receipt, that certificate LC from the core banking system. It was a unique kind of scam, and it was not possible when the top bank officials are not involved in that. So it was the case of another kind of scam, and it is also a twin balance sheet problem. Twin balance sheet, you all know about what is the twin balance sheet. Twin balance sheet means when a company is under fraud and they loss of financial loss exposed, then simultaneously the balance sheet of bank who have provided the loan to that company have also turned into NPAs. So this is called twin balance sheet problem. So these are the cases. Cafe Coffee Day, it was the other type of scam, and it was a very good business model. But in this case also, promoters have not paid 2,000 to 3,000 crores loan, and it was basically a suicide of promoters. And it is also a case of greed-based economics. It is a case of high-level greed. But the important point is the business model was good. So in spot exchange of India case, it was a different kind of trade. This is a company lured investors with high return. It was a case of misleading the investors. They give them in that model, they assure the high level of return, but they could not have, they could not arrange any asset, and they have paid the high return assured by them from the investment of other investors. It was like the Ponzi schemes. So it was the different kind of. Amrapali builders, they have also it was a good company, but many of buyers were utilized to increase own personal assets of directors. They the customers have given the amount for their property, but this amount is used for the personal use of directors, and created bogus bills. For to adjust them, they have created the bogus bills, fake payment fee, and other similar kind of fraudulent activities and misappropriation of financial statement. We all know the Vodafone case. ICICI Bank is also involved in that. Deepak Kochar is the husband of Chanda Kochar, and they incorporated a company, a power company, and after that they get the 400 crores investment from Mauritius. After that, they 64 crores loan was diverted to the from Videocon, and after that this amount was shifted to the trust owned by Deepak Kochar, and this case was also highlighted. And these manipulations and the in accounts, and with such a huge fund diverted, how it is possible? This is the question. And high level personal high level officials, bankers are involved in that. So how it is possible, and how it is step from the auditors of repute audit firms? It is the problem. CG Power, ABG Shipyard is a latest case. Is the biggest banking fraud of about 22,842 crores through the 98 related companies, and they diverted the funds in these companies. It was uncovered through a forensic audit conducted by the Ernst & Young. So what is the problem? So these are Sahara. We all know about the Sahara Group scheme also. Though it was committed differently, and the SEBI also they are not. It is a type of Ponzi scheme or NBFC. They are not related with the. They cannot collect such type of funds, and Mr. Sahara is in jail. So these are some examples of financial misappropriation, statement, and committed frauds, and all are committed through different methods. So the next slide is mechanics. And so after analyzing the problem with some supportive scams and frauds, so we have sufficient number of rules, regulations, provisions, and regularly reforming that. For example, provision of Company Act 2013 have several internal financial control provisions. We all know about that. But these all are not so effective to control the such type of misappropriation of financial statement. Why it is so? They are only useful to the businessman person who are honest. These are not useful for the persons who are corrupt or who are in the deep greed. ICI guidelines on audit and internal financial control over financial reporting, they have also issued these guidelines in 2015. We have also Indian Accounting Standards, IFRS, and with these provisions, we have witnessing the several type of and huge fraud and misuse of misappropriation, fearless violation of these rules and regulations. We have also Prevention of Corruption Act 2011, the Whistleblower Act 2011, RTI Act 2005, several scams uncovered with the RTI. Recently, you have heard that 11,000 crores asset attached of Mr. Ajit Pawar, um, uh, the Chief Minister of Maharashtra, attached by ED. How it was possible? It was possible due to RTI activists. They collected the facts that several sugar factories were unlawfully captured by these person by misusing the banks, misusing the cooperative societies and banks, cooperative banks. That's why the government have separately developed a ministry Ministry of Cooperation, and the outcome of it was the case of RTI. About 7,500 papers were collected by RTI activists, and now this case is with the ED. And money laundering is also involved in this case. Prevention of Money Laundering Act is also enacted in 2002. Company Act 2017 amendment have also been made. Company Act Amendment 2000. By this amendment, the audit firms, the responsibility of audit firms have been increased. National Financial Reporting Authority, it has been, it is a recent efforts by the government, and by this agency, now this authority can take action against the audit firm and auditors, and for nexus with the companies to misuse these provisions and misappropriation of financial statement and creating frauds. It is a separate body, and it is not required by the parliamentary mode for taking action. ICAI till date, ICAI was the authority, and they have also submitted the objection that it is the entering in our purview. But government has enacted that National Finance Reporting Authority. These are the good efforts. Securities and Exchange Board of India, we have also recently SEBI have also changed the rule for appointing the independent director, as I have already said, with 75% of 75% majority is required for appointing an independent director in the general meeting of shareholders. So they regularly change the rules and regulation and the prohibition of fraudulent and unfair trade practices related to security market. So when the security market scam frauds occurs, the listed company indulging in the fraud, they regularly reforming the rules and regulation. Security Exchange Board of India listing obligation and disclosure requirement regulation. So we have several type of agencies and rules regulation system. Reserve Bank of India, fraud classification and reporting for commercial banks and selected financial institutions. They involve and recently they have ordered 12 big cases. They are ordered to and shifted to the IBC. So Reserve Bank is also have some authority to detect the frauds and to use their power to control them. Forensic audit, we have forensic audit mechanism also. We know that this fraud of ABC uncovered by the audit firm of Ernst & Young. So forensic audit is a good mechanism to detect the fraud and prevent the fraud also. But in our country, it is not a regulatory. It is under not used properly. We use this forensic audit system when it is required. But if we can develop this forensic audit mechanism in a regular basis, then things can be changed. So other criminal laws and foreign exchange regulations are there. They also used as and when it is required for the person. So this is the mechanism and efforts of to control the frauds related to financial statement representations. Next. Now the last words of our topic is Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code 2016. I am taking only the snapshot of and this short presentation of these all issues. Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, what it has done, what is the utility? The introduction of this Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code is very unique in its nature, and the outcome of 5 years are also encouraging. It has provided a single law for insolvency and bankruptcy for stressed companies, LLPs, partnerships, and individuals. So it has created a single law. So the resolution strategy of this code is based on prevention, start early, and close time. This is the strategy. I am giving the brief only because it is not possible to explain the details of these. Okay, so start early and close time, and closure of unviable companies, because it is also very important. In previous systems, the closure of companies was very tough. There are several types of hurdles, and this code has removed that hurdle, and it makes closure of unviable companies easy. I will give the data related to this issue. The objective, what is the objective of this code? The primary objective of this code is rescuing lives of corporate debtors, because the focus is on corporate debtors. They have to save the life of corporate debtors in distress, which are in distress. The first order objective is resolution. Second order objective is to maximize the value of assets. It is also very, very important. Because when the company fails, then the value of the realization of value of assets is very tough job. So the second order objective is to maximize the value of the asset. The third order objective is to balancing the interest of stakeholders, including promoting the entrepreneurship. This is the objective, because the safeguard or saving of the interest of stakeholder is important, as well as it is also important to promote the entrepreneurship, not to create the hurdles of entrepreneurs. It is very, very important objective, and this entire design of this code has prepared on this with this objective. Another important aspect is time-bound resolution mechanism. What is it? 180 days for companies with 90 days extension. and 90 days for small and startups with 40 days of extension. This is the timeline. So the it is for companies and LLP and DRT, Debt Recovery Tribunal, for partnership firms and individuals. So in this code, they have separated the companies and LLPs and the individuals and firms and individuals. So it is also a very good idea to separate them. And what is the IBC framework? IBC framework is Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board. This is the Insolvency IBBI. Insolvency Professionals as Intermediate. This is the unique feature of this code. They involve the professionals in the entire process. So the objective of maximization of value of assets and promoting entrepreneurship can be achieved. So professional intermediary will solve the problem. It is acceptable to the CDs and other creditors also. So professionals examines the entire case fairly, and after that they use the mechanism as per required. So is out of that, after that, information utilities, it is also involved, and educatory mechanism of the educatory agencies, AA, they are also involved in this. So this is the entire system of insolvency and bankruptcy code. So, and it is in the five years have gone after introduction of this IBC code, and the results are very encouraging. And regularly it is monitoring, educating, and reforming the system by organizing the workshop of CDs and COCs, committee of creditors, and other for effective implementation and introduction of pre-packaged insolvency solutions for corporate MSMEs. It is also recently introduced a pre-packaged insolvency solutions process for corporate MSMEs. So this is the initial stage. 5 years is not a very long period for analyzing that. But in the recent, in this 5 year, we can examine the progress of the IBC. As on 31st December, I have the data of up to the 31st December 2001. The cases registered, we can examine the outcome of this IBC code on following grounds. Because it is in short period of time, we can examine only in brief. So the cases registered under corporate insolvency resolution process, the cases registered was total 4946 cases were registered under CIRP, out of which 3247 have been closed. This is the good number. 4,946 cases registered, and out of which 3247 have been closed. In the closed cases, 714 cases have been settled on approval and review. It is a clause under IBC that they can, after giving the application, they can give an appeal and review. So 714 cases have been decided and settled on approval and recovery. 37% cases are related with the manufacturing sector. In these are total, if we analyze the sector-wise submission of application, total 37% cases are related with the manufacturing sector, and 25% are related with the real estate. Other sectors are very less percentage of applications, because these are the areas under distress. So the cases decided under resolution plan is 457. that is 14.7% of total cases. Cases referred to liquidation, 1,514. This is 46.63%. The data can be analyzed in all the dimension. We can say that liquidation rate is high. So how can we say that IBC is promoting the entrepreneurship? We can say that, but the things are different. The cases withdrawn under Section 12 of IBC is 564, that is 17.3%. The recovery rate, it is also a area which we can analyze the outcome of IBC code. That recovery rate, though it is very low, we can at some point of time it is 18%, and but in average 33% in case of financial creditors. So the data can be analyzed on the ground that recovery rate is very low, but the other aspects should also be considered. The timeline of cases, it is also a very important aspect. 46% cases settled in more than 2 years. 23% cases in 1 to 2 years. 30% cases in 270 days to 1 year. 6% cases settled in 180 days to 270 days. 6% cases in 90 to 180 days, and remaining 6% in less than 90 days. So you can say by these data that the timeline of the case is not so encouraging, and only 6% cases have been settled in 90 days. But this aspect is not because the issues are very critical, and it is very. But when we decide a certain timeline in the code, so it is important, because it was not in previous system. The 7 to 8 years was the timeline to set the problem, and then it has created several types of problem. Realization of assets was the problem, and entrepreneurship was hampered in these old system. So this is the short out. So if we analyze the progress on the basis of recovery rate, so one can say that it is not so encouraging. But if we analyze the entire data, then the stress asset, when we analyze on the basis of the demands of the creditors and the outstanding of the creditors, then we can say that the recovery rate is very low. But if we analyze the data of the assets at the time of application filed, then we can say that the value of assets was recovered more than the value assessed at the time of application and at the time of the stressed asset. And the important aspect is the maximum of companies was defunct. So it is very tough to recover from the assets of the companies who are under the defunct companies, because the assets lost and the value of assets were lost. So though in these 5 years after introduction of this IBC code, the recovery rate is low, but when it started to the system, when the system starts, then in future the recovery rate can be higher, because the stressed companies can apply earlier and they have a good mechanism of insolvency and bankruptcy. On the basis of timeline also, it is a very initial stage, and we have several type of problem, and IBC is regularly reforming the system to improve the timeline also. On the basis of other aspect also, we can say that the mindset of a distressed company and the creditors and other stakeholders are different from the company which are running. So when the system works, all the aspects and all the other things can change, and the outcome of this IBC will improve in future. This is my submission. It is a very 5 year is not a long time to analyze the system, but even then it is very encouraging. So in my last slide, what is needed for reducing the magnitude of problem? So it is a very theoretical point that strengthening regulatory framework with fast resolution mechanism. IBC have some qualities and characteristics of fast resolution mechanism introducing, and the regulatory agencies all are also improving that improving the situation. New reforms initiated with the IBC are also very important. So, but the reformatory mechanism is very fast. We all have witnessed that government is reforming very in a faster manner. So we can hope that this pace will change the system in near future. Now the next aspect is very important. It is related with my first slide, that we have to create required culture. I would like to give an example of Japan. Japan, the culture is important. I can explain with this example that culture, how the culture is important. A company ordered some goods from Japan, and in the order they mentioned that only 2% damaged default goods can be accepted. Defected goods, only 2% defected goods will be accepted. So when the Japanese company sent the remittance of goods, they remitted in 2 boxes. In first boxes, they mention all perfect goods, and in second box, they submitted the 2 defective goods, and they mention it. We have prepared this defective goods by changing in my machine, through change in my machine, in our machine, because it was mentioned in your order that 2% defective goods will be accepted. We cannot understand why these defective goods are useful to you. This is the example of the culture, because in the culture of Japanese industry, there is no scope of defective goods. This is the example of culture. So such type of culture in corporate governance, in responsibility, in using the limited liability concept, we have to think that we are the custodian of the investors' fund. So this is the only issue of concept, and it is not issue of, it is a concept, issue of behavior. So how the behavior can be changed, it is a big problem. Rules, regulation, provisions, reform, all are not so effective to develop a culture. So what can we do? In my opinion, if it is possible, we can convert the impact of fraudulent activities or benefit of fraudulent activities as a loss-making activity from a profit-making activity. Then it will be a big success. I would like to explain it in a book of Elias Ness, The Untouchable. It was mentioned that you cannot control the crime, by rules and regulation and provisions. You have to make them a loss-making activity. What is the reality? All fraudulent activities are conducted because of the fearlessness. So, can we convert it in a loss-making activity? So, it is also a part of our rules and regulation. We have to convert it. We have to frame such type of mechanism. It may be the faster resolution of the problem, faster deciding the fraudulent cases, heavy penalties, and other provisions, related provisions to make the activities loss making. It is it is that it is doing by some politicians also. If you take the example from the Chief Minister Yogi is recognized as a bulldozer, but he controlled the crime, and the method was to make these activities loss making. You may disagree with the action, but it cannot be controlled by jail. It cannot be controlled by registering the case against them. If the building is illegal, you have to demolish it. So after that, the huge investment through the fraudulent activities and corruption, they are converted into losses, and it will help to control the system. Can we apply such type of concept in formulating the new or reforming the provisions related to IFRS, corporate governance, audit firms? Government has reformed the system and forcing the audit firms to develop a system with the responsibility. So, but several things is to be done in future. So this is my submission. So another aspect is innovative incentives for fair business practices. There are some countries when they provide the pension facility on the basis of the tax submitted by you in your corporate or business life. There are several other innovative ideas to motivate the businessmen to pay the tax and not indulge in the fraudulent activity, because incentive is also important to develop a culture. Not the strict action is required. The incentive is also required. So if a simultaneous and combination of these two can be developed, a required culture for promoting and motivating the businessmen for not indulge in such type of fraudulent activities and manipulate the business financial statement and breach the faith of investors and stakeholders, then it will be a very important step. So as I in earlier said in my introduction, my talk is only to start the thinking process on these issues. These are not the concrete solutions, but if we analyze the reforms recently initiated by the government at different stages, corporate sector will be improved, and it is witnessed in the ranking. I used to be doing ranking in the world. We are improving regularly, and in future we will improve the lot. Thank you very much.
That was such an enlightening session for all of us. I must mention our deep sense of appreciation for Professor Dr. GM Puntambekar for his explanation